Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, and we are live tonight. And so actually, this is a different format. This is a different show. So, of course, it's part of a Man in America, but we're calling tonight's show Sunday with Seth. And this is going to be a show that I'll be doing every Sunday night. And it's going to be a live show. And the intention initially was to set the show up just as a time to interact and to ask some questions and say, okay, how's everyone doing? And kind of cover whatever's on my mind. And, I'm not typically one that's driven too much by breaking news. But as the day unfolded and was watching what was happening in Mexico, it was, I think it was enough to say, okay, like I got to focus a little bit on what's happening down there with this cartel chaos. So tonight we're going to start off looking at what's happening in Mexico, what's behind it, asking some of the questions I'm not seeing a lot of people asking to understand it and understand how it affects us here in America, because these same cartels that are creating mass chaos in Mexico, they've got armies in America, right? So just keep that in consideration, which we'll be getting into that. Also, then we're going to be looking at the alien stuff, right? So magically, okay, we have the Epstein files, and all of a sudden everyone's saying, okay, hey, we want justice. And all of a sudden, Obama mentions the aliens, and within a couple of days, Trump is like, we're declassifying all the alien stuff. So we'll be covering that as well, and then looking at Epstein and just where we're at with the Epstein files. I haven't forgotten about the Epstein files. I know a lot of people have just moved on to the next thing. It's not going to work for me. So we'll be kind of hitting those. And then whatever other questions and comments that you have, we'll be digging into that as well. One thing I will say is that whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, have any questions, just write question in your comment. And just write all caps question, put your question in there. And my producer, Kay, hello, Kay, she will take those questions and she'll gather them for me. And so once we get through a lot of the initial discussion, which won't be more than half the show, we'll then be getting into the Q&A section. And even if you just have comments or you want to kind of bring up a point on something, it's not necessarily a question, just drop it in there and we'll get it. And we'll just talk to each other because we need to be doing that. It's really important. So, I think that's it. I haven't done a live show like this in a little while, so it might be a little bit rusty, so bear with me. But that's the benefit of watching independent media like myself. I'm not some polished guy with a script telling you what to think. We're here together, figuring things out together. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, before we do jump in, I just want to first off thank anybody who's watching this show on Rumble. Thank you so much for supporting a free speech platform. Rumble is honestly, it is the platform that has allowed me to continue to grow. I'm so censored on YouTube and Facebook and all the other platforms, unfortunately. So Rumble has just been a beacon of light. And speaking of that, with Rumble, and as we're very well aware that there's a mass censorship happening. Platforms are controlling the narratives, and they're definitely pushing the things that they want us to see. Like you see that all the time, whether it's Twitter, or Facebook, or YouTube, especially. And we need to fight back. So Rumble is the only company that in my opinion, that has stood the test of time and really deserves our support. So on one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, right, by allowing me to talk about these things. But on the other side, they've also introduced something that gives us protection from the big banks shutting us off, which is also a big concern of mine, which is why I'm a big believer in this chunk of metal right here, physical silver. However, banks can cancel our accounts. They can freeze our cards. So that's why Rumble has launched something called Rumble Wallet. So Rumble Wallet is a wallet that no one can cancel and that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like myself without any middlemen taking cuts. So if you have a Rumble account, you can actually use that Rumble Wallet to tip creators like myself or someone else you're watching on the platform. So you can control your money, though. It's not a bank. It's not a government. It's not a tech company. Not even Rumble can touch your money. So it's safe. It's yours. It's only yours. So you can also buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin, Tether Gold, etc. in one place. And it's not only a wallet that you can use to buy and save, but also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with the click of a button. So there will be no fees when you tip my channel or others. and we actually receive that tip instantly, unlike other platforms where we have to wait for payouts. So if you want to support my show and other creators by clicking that tip button on the Rumble channel, you go to wallet.rumble.com. That's where you set up your wallet. So download the Rumble wallet app today, open an account, and step away from the big banks. So again, it's wallet.rumble.com, or just search for Rumble Wallet in the app stores. So, okay, jumping into today's content. So first, I'm just going to start by showing you just a video, okay? This is what's happening right now currently. Well, I guess it's getting into nighttime, but this is, these are videos from today, okay? Don't get the music too loud, but so we're seeing mass chaos across Mexico. Airports taken over. We're seeing vehicles being burned, roadblocks being set up, just complete chaos, right? Now, they're saying that this chaos has been caused primarily by a single cartel, which we'll be getting into that. However, as with most of these situations, I do like to just kind of pause and make sure that I'm not just kind of jumping into the immediate narrative, because I think there's been a lot of false flags. I think there's been a lot of false flag shootings, airplanes crashing into buildings, all kinds of those things that makes me really pause and try to reflect when I see these things happening and thinking, okay, who's going to benefit from this? Who was really behind it? What's it going to do? How is this chaos going to result in our rights being taken away? So if this is happening on American soil, especially, that's what I'm asking. And so these are questions I just want to keep in mind as I'm looking at this. So I want to start just with an overview of what happened. So I'll give you just my quick, elevator overview of it. The Mexican Army Special Forces, in some sort of conjunction with U.S. Special Forces, basically they assassinated the head of the most powerful gang, right, cartel in Mexico. They killed him. It looks like they killed him on a helicopter in transport, like they captured him. I don't know the exact details of that. So they basically killed the head of this major cartel, and then mass violence erupted in response to that killing of that cartel. So let me start here with this website. This is this is a post from Geo Insider. So who says, for everyone trying to understand what's happening in Mexico, first of all, let's understand who was reportedly killed. Now, keep in mind, I took French, not Spanish, in high school, so I'm not going to try to pronounce all these Spanish words and names properly. I'm just going to go over them quickly. So if anyone's watching and if I pronounce something wrong, sorry, just let me know in the comments with your other complaints you might have. Anyway, so this guy named El Mencho, right? He is the alleged founder and the top leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, right? So it's CJNG. So as a teenager, he migrated illegally to the United States, where he was later arrested in the early 90s for drug-related offenses and sent back to Mexico. After returning, he became involved with the Milenio Cartel, which was aligned with the Sinaloa Cartel. So following the death of Nacho, right, in 2010, and the fragmentation of the Milenio Cartel, Oseguera, I think that's his, yeah. So Oseguera, I'm going to call him El Mencho. El Mencho helped form what became the CJNG. Over the next decade, he transformed it into one of the most powerful and violent criminal organizations in Mexico. So their stronghold has been the state of Jalisco, but it expanded aggressively into these other states that are mentioned there and beyond. The cartel developed international trafficking routes to the U.S., Europe, and Asia. At its height, they operated in more than 10 states, so 10 Mexican states as far as I understand, and became known for its militarized structure, use of armored vehicles, heavy caliber weapons, and coordinated large-scale blockades. Its main rivals have included the Sinaloa Cartel, local criminal groups in that particular region, such as the Santa Rosa de Lima Cartel, remnants of the Los Zetas, and the self-defense militias in that Michoacan. So the CJNG gained a reputation for brutal retaliation and direct confrontations with Mexican security forces. Now, following the reports that El Mencho, this guy you see right here, following the reports that he was killed, widespread violence has been reported across multiple states. Road blockades, burning vehicles, attacks on businesses, highway closures are occurring in Jalisco and a few other regions, okay? Authorities are reinforcing state borders and urging civilians to avoid major roads. So, again, I'll mute this. You don't have to hear that because it's not as helpful to hear it. But you can see, so this is just all across Mexico. We're getting footage like this. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, when I see these things happen, I wonder, okay, who's behind it? What's going on? I think a lot of times it's really difficult to understand exactly who's behind these things. However, considering the amount of cartel violence that we've seen in Mexico for as long as I can remember, the storyline does appear pretty valid, right? That Mexican military, in conjunction with U.S. Special Forces and U.S. intelligence, allegedly kill the head of this cartel. The cartel erupts, and we have chaos across Mexico. That seems to be pretty accurate based upon what I've found here. Now, I'm seeing different opinions as to what the involvement was from the United States. I'm seeing people saying that there is very little involvement from the U.S., that it was actually mostly Mexican special forces that did this. But I've also seen people saying that the U.S. special forces were quite heavily involved in this. So I don't know the details of that, and we may never know the actual details of that. However, it is important to kind of put this all together and understand that these cartels aren't just operating in a bubble in Mexico, right? They're global, and they have a lot of cells here in America. So just something we're considering. I'll get into that shortly. So here, this is a video. This is from 2020. So this right here is a video of the special forces, one of the small divisions, I'm supposing, of this cartel. So, I mean, when you hear discussions of these cartels, this is some heavy machinery they've got here. You can see, rifle-mounted grenade launchers at the front of those rifles. Heavy machine, probably 50 cal machine guns in the back of these trucks, all kinds of stuff. So these aren't just, when you think of the cartels, or these aren't just some dirty guys with some shotguns. I mean, these are serious people. A lot of these people that end up unfortunately joining these cartels are actual special forces. A lot of them have trained with United States. These are highly, highly skilled fighters, and they're not just skilled fighters, but you can see that they're well funded. They've got pretty serious equipment here. So this is a big deal, right? This is not this is the army that you see right here. This is probably the same size army as a lot of small countries might have. I mean, it's a lot of firepower these people have. So it's pretty serious. Now, I want to highlight something that my friend Steve Slepcevic put out. So Steve runs a disaster response company. He does actually a lot of things, but it's a disaster response company. So if there's hurricanes and whatnot, his team goes in there and they stabilize regions. They also do executive protection. They do a lot of stuff. So Steve put something out, and this is worth noting. If you know anybody that is in Mexico, especially American citizens there, if you have family there in those regions you're worried about, this is very important for you. So Steve here says, urgent Mexico notice, Sabre Defense Team. Says Sabre Defense Team has deployed, that's his one of his companies, I believe, is Sabre Defense Team. Sabre Defense Team has deployed aviation assets and security personnel to Mexico and currently has pilots and aircraft on standby for private security extractions of U.S. citizens in Puerto Vallarta, which is one of the main areas this chaos is happening, and surrounding areas. We can provide secure transport with professional protective teams directly into Carlsbad, Palomar Airport, which is San Diego County, for individuals, families, or small groups needing assistance returning safely to the U.S. Our teams are experienced in crisis response, protective operations, and coordinated cross-border movements. If you or someone, here's what's key right here, okay? If you or someone you know needs help, contact us immediately via DM or our emergency line. Please share. Someone may need this tonight. Okay, this is from the Saber Defense team. So this is Steve. So he said you can DM him. Okay, so if you have an issue like that, you can look them up. Saber Defense team. You can probably find their phone number, or Steve Slepcevic. This right here is his handle. For those of you that are listening on podcast, it's just at Steve Slepcevic. So Steve Steve, then Slepcevic, Slepcevic. Okay, so that's really important to note. Now, as I was mentioning earlier about what does this mean for us here in America, this is a post I want to highlight. This is from Jordan Crowder, who says, what's happening in Mexico is wild. Everyone knows if you kill the cartel boss, all hell breaks loose. So that's what they did with the United States' help. Now, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel is waging war on the U.S. and the Mexican military. Trump has made it clear he really wants to fight on Mexican land, and if one American is killed, you bet your butt we're going in. But there's a bigger issue. These cartels have cells inside the United States, a lot of them. Did we just kick the anthill? So, I don't want to be a fearmonger, but this is worth considering that, we might see, if this escalates further, if, say, an American gets killed in Mexico, if we send in more, if we send in troops or special forces, which they may already be there for all we know, this could escalate even further, and you could see potential violence, or you could see some of that chaos I showed in that video, you could see some of that on American soil. Now, do I expect it? I mean, I don't know. I think these days, there's nothing I don't expect happening. We've gone from Epstein files to aliens to Mexico on fire like this. So I think that it's probably responsible for us to almost expect anything, unfortunately, these days. But just keep your head on a swivel. Now, there's another kind of post. This is a Substack I want to highlight. This is from the Christian Warrior Prepper. I like that name. I like that kind of persona there, Christian Warrior Prepper, who says, will the cartel war in Mexico spill over into the United States? He says, this is Keith Graves. He says, an intelligence assessments of CJNG escalation in Mexico and the real risk to U.S. law enforcement and citizens. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll just kind of highlight a few of the items he mentions here, because this is really important for us to consider. He says, reports indicate that Mexican security forces have killed El Mencho, leader of the CJNG. Following those reports, violence has expanded across areas historically controlled by the cartel, including roadblocks, vehicle burnings, and disruptions in key transportation corridors. The pattern is consistent with cartel retaliation behavior following leadership targeting. CJNG has a demonstrated history of rapid escalation to reassert dominance, deter follow-on operations, and prevent internal fragmentation. Based on my professional assessment and field-level conversations over time, U.S. homeland implications must be considered. CJNG maintains an established operational footprint inside the U.S. tied primarily to trafficking and financial infrastructure. If cartel leadership determines that the U.S. support materially enabled the targeting of El Mencho, targeted retaliation against American law enforcement becomes a plausible risk. There is no public reporting at this time indicating broad civilian attack planning inside the United States. The more probable risk is selective intimidation or violence directed at law enforcement or individuals directly connected to cartel disruption. So he gives an overview over here, but I'm not going to get into. But again, this guy, if you look into his Substack, it's he's got a lot of good sources, and he's not just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks here. So anyway, it's just as worth us considering that, again, just keep your head on a swivel, right? That's it. Like, that's why I'm kind of big on preparedness. I'm big on just making sure that you're ready for this stuff, because you just never know. You have no idea what could actually transpire in these situations. So, all right, continuing, just want to also remind you again that if you have any particular questions, just ask them. I can see there's questions already coming in. And so I'll just highlight this real quickly before we move on. These are some things kind of tied into the Mexican situation. So Paranoctorious on Rumble has asked, I want to know if any Americans have been killed. There's none that I know of so far, but I'm sure that there will be reporting and covering if there's Americans that have been killed. What I've seen so far from the footage and information is that the cartels, they're not going out and they're not slaughtering people, right? So it looks like what they're trying to do is they're trying to disrupt transportation, disrupt a way of life. They're basically trying to cripple what's happening, cripple Mexican infrastructure, right? So airports, blocking major highways, burning cars everywhere. So it doesn't look like that their goal is to hunt down any American that is in Mexico. However, as we covered with the Christian Warrior Prepper and also that post from Jordan Crowder, if more information comes out, or let's just say, for instance, say American does get killed, and let's just say that we do see some sort of troops moving in on the situation in Mexico, I would say at that point, you might then see that the cartel starts targeting Americans in Mexico. Like, I would see that being the first step before they start targeting things or people or infrastructure in the United States itself. So again, no reports so far on Americans having been killed, but it could escalate to that. Mexico is a really popular vacation destination for Americans, especially right now. I'm in upstate New York. We've literally have a blizzard going on right now. I think we're getting about 2 feet of snow in the next 24 hours. So a lot of people go down to places like Mexico at this time of year. So I think that you're going to have a lot of Canadians, a lot of Americans, especially the northern half of America, people going down to Mexico just to get warmed up. So, okay. Another question. This is from Adam Hess on Rumble, who says, thousands of Americans are trapped in Mexico, yet I have not seen one person, including Seth, asking where the hell is a statement from Trump. That's a really, really good point. Okay, so here I am. You haven't heard anybody asking here. Seth is officially asking where the hell is a statement from Trump. Good point, right? If we're seeing, if we're seeing this happening, right? So you remember when we had the pullout over in Afghanistan, we had the Taliban happening. That was a big deal, right? We were trying to pull everyone out of there. You had a lot of statements coming from very official sources, within our government. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe you're going to see something, Trump commenting on this. But I haven't seen it yet. So I'm asking on behalf of Adam. Thank you for poking towards that. Yes, that is my question. Okay, is there something coming from our own government? So continuing. Here's another question. This is from Michael Bartholomew over on Rumble, who says, I smell a rat. No right-thinking person would think they could fight the cartels by cherry-picking one boss. What's really going on in the back room? Yeah, that's a good point. That is actually a really good point. And, yeah, okay. So you're saying, look, okay, who would think they could fight the cartels by cherry picking one boss? What's really going on in the back room? One thing I will say with that, and look, I'm not an expert in cartels or I'm not ex-military, but I would say that with a lot of these organizations, and it's not just cartels. I mean, these are even businesses, right? That when you cut the head off of a snake, especially in an area like Mexico, where it's not like there's one big cartel, right? These cartels are constantly warring. There's multiple cartels. They might work together in some ways, but they're fighting. There's a lot of cartel on cartel violence there. So, yes, I mean, you may not think that. Okay, do you think you could just kill the one boss and collapse the whole cartel? Maybe not. However, if you kill that one boss, you might have a bunch of other smaller cartels that then see an opportunity to then move in, which that in of itself could bring down, I'm not saying it would end a cartel, but it would greatly disrupt what they're doing. Now, keep in mind that this cartel, they are heavily, heavily involved with fentanyl. They're heavily involved with a lot of the drugs coming into the United States. And so if Trump, our own government, if they're trying to prevent a lot of the drugs coming into the United States, crippling these cartels would be very, very, very good. Very good in terms of crippling that drug kind of flow into the United States. Also, one thing worth mentioning is that, I'm not going to go into detail with it, but a lot of these cartels are very tied into Satanism, especially if you look at MS-13 as one of them. But these are, I'm not going to get into some of the reports, but these are evil people. Like these cartel members, the violence, like the torture, the murder. I mean, these are criminal organizations. They're evil people. And I've seen a lot of different reports, and maybe I'll do a show on this at some point in the future, that Satanism and torture and sacrifice, human sacrifice, that's a big part of what's going behind and seeing what's happening within these cartels. So just keep that in mind as you're watching this, because as we just kind of saw with the Epstein files, we kind of peered a little bit behind the curtain as to what's really happening with this world. And if you look at the interview I did, actually I published it this exact same time last week, exactly 1 week ago, when I interviewed Max Lewin, who was she was a trafficking victim of satanic ritual abuse, trafficked under the Vatican, etc. This stuff is, it's tying into the Satanism, tying into the kind of bigger picture. There's a lot going on here. I guess, go watch that interview if you haven't yet. Before I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole and try to stay a little bit on topic here. So here's another comment. This is from Beto D1111 over on YouTube, and saying, could this be a big distraction? I very much so, it could be. I mean, the thing is, it does seem like it's a very valid thing that's happening there. Now, could it be a big distraction? I think almost anything could be a big distraction. And so this could definitely fall under the lines of that. But what's interesting, actually, so here's Harry Buckeye, 1027, maybe he's from Ohio, like I am, a Buckeye, who says, doesn't the conspiracy theory of new map include Mexico and Venezuela? And that's a good point, because if you look at the North American kind of realignment of countries, I'm not going to be getting into it too heavily, but again, there are some more globalist plans where it shows that North America is actually united, where it's not just America, it's United States, Canada, Mexico, and much more. So going back to Harry Buckeye's question, saying, doesn't the conspiracy theory of a new map include Mexico and Venezuela? I believe that it does. I'm not going to pull it up right now because I don't want to get too far off topic, but maybe this is part of a bigger plan to bring Mexico under the control of the United States. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, so it is a consideration. I want to highlight just a quick comment. This is from Johnny Midas over on YouTube, who says, love your channel, brother. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that, man. That's from Johnny Midas over on YouTube. So again, if you have questions, just write question, drop them in, and I'll make sure I'll try my best to address them. So yeah, I guess that's the summary as of right now. Again, I'm still collecting a lot of the information that's coming out on the situation, but that is the overall kind of assessment that I have. Just wanted to kind of hit on it before I jump into the other things, because initially my show that I had planned for tonight was just going to be mostly based upon aliens and Epstein. So let me just pull up a few things real quick here. Now, continuing though with that, kind of highlighting, I want to jump into what's happening with the alien stuff, which is kind of strange. But before I jump to that, I just want to thank and highlight one of the show's sponsors. So one of the sponsors of the show is this amazing company called Brightcore. So the founder, her name's Kim Bright. I interview her sometimes. And so basically Brightcore, their main product is what's called Kimchi One. Actually, I pulled up. We've got a little discount code for you too. So Kimchi One, you might think, okay, kimchi. What about kimchi? So this is something that we literally have this in our home. We take it all the time here. And basically what is it? It's kimchi in these little capsules, okay, to kind of put it very lightly. So kimchi is one of the most powerful things to restore your gut balance. If you look at so many of the problems that we have, whether it's Alzheimer's, autism, like so many issues that happen with our overall health, hair quality, skin, memory, aging, arthritis, so many things are actually tied to your gut health. Okay. And so because a lot of us, including me, we grew up having antibiotics and having a lot of things, pharmaceuticals, before we kind of figured out what was really going on with big pharma, that a lot of those things destroy your gut. And so kimchi is one of the single best things to rebuild your gut bacteria. And so people that take this Kimchi One, which for a lot of Americans, they don't really enjoy the taste of kimchi. Like I've spent a lot of time over in Asia. I have a very, I can eat a lot of weird things that Asians will eat. I still don't do kimchi that well. I'll do sauerkraut and other fermented stuff. So the Kimchi One, though, what's great though is that it's a little capsule you can take, and it has all the benefits of eating the raw kimchi, but it's flavorless, which is kind of nice. Anyway, I cannot recommend this product enough. It's such a good product, and it's something that helps with the overall health. Okay, so if you want to check it out, go to brightcore.com/maninamerica, and you get 25% off the kimchi. But what's cool about these guys is that they're based in America. They want you to call them. So if you call it in a phone number, 888-575-6488, you can actually talk to them. They can walk through some of your health issues with you, talk to you about how kimchi might affect things, and you will get up to 50% off and free shipping if you call. That's only if you call. So again, I am very big into natural health, very big into exploring what's been hidden from us. Kimchi is honestly, it's one of the most powerful things that you can do for improving your health, whether it's weight loss, memory quality, kind of slows down aging, because it's one of the best things for putting this amazing bacteria into your gut, and that gut bacteria, which has been destroyed from all the junk that they give us. So anyway, there we go. The information is also in the link. The description for the show. You can find all the further information of how to get the kimchi phone number, website, etc. Okay, so now that we've covered Mexican cartels and kimchi, we're going to be getting into aliens and Epstein. Now, with the alien stuff, I don't even know where to start with this because, I guess we'll frame it. Okay, so basically, this is a video that Sean Ryan put out. It's a 28-second video. Now, this Red Panda Koala kind of summarized it and saying, Obama goes on some random podcast that no one's ever heard about and just happens to drop that aliens are real. Okay. And now we've got Trump coming out. Actually, here is let's see, is this it right here? Yep. So this came out recently from Trump. This is on February 19th. He put this tweet out that says, based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. Okay. I'm going to play Sean Ryan's video for you really quickly because I happen to agree with him. Now, I will give you a quick warning. He drops the F word 3 or 4 times in this. So, I don't swear personally. I'm really, just not, I don't speak like that. But sometimes it's good for added emphasis. So I'm just kind of warning you, if you've got kids watching this, which if your kids are up at 11 o'clock at night watching Man in America, I guess that's awesome. However, this is one of those kind of earmuff moments of, don't let them listen to this. Anyway, I'll play this real quickly. 28 seconds. This is Sean Ryan kind of giving some comments on the alien stuff going on here.
Obama goes on some random podcast that nobody's ever heard of and just happens to drop, oh, aliens are real. Yeah, tell me that shit's not fucking orchestrated. Right in the middle of the biggest pedophile ring exposed in the fucking world. All of a sudden, we're gonna drop that aliens are real. Fuck you, motherfucker. Fuck you. Fucking aliens. Fuck off.
I warned you on the F words on that, but I mean, I have to say, I agree, right? It's like, okay, where is this coming out of? Like, what's going on with this? Okay, so now continue. Okay, this is the tweet that Trump put out shortly after, within a couple of days of Obama going on some random podcast and admitting that aliens were real. But this is from Finance a Lot, and I happen to agree. He says, the only thing left to distract the public from the Epstein files are aliens. That's true. Now, I'm not going to be getting into Operation Bluebeam or Project Bluebeam or any of those kinds of things. I'm not going to even be getting into tonight kind of the analysis of, are aliens real, what's going on. I personally think, without going into too much in detail, that our government has had a lot of involvement with aliens, or whatever you want to consider them, demons, Anunnaki, Nephilim. There's a lot of weird things going on. Again, I'm not going to be going into those things tonight. However, I think our government has a lot of stuff they've hidden from us, a lot of very advanced technology they've hidden from us. And so it is just strange, though. It's like, okay, is this the Trump administration trying to throw people a bone? All those conspiracy theorists that are obsessed with the Epstein files, is it something that's like, okay, hey, let's give them the aliens. The aliens will be a good distraction. Maybe it is. But I can tell you, especially looking at how the government has handled the Epstein files, just the complete, just like dropping the ball in ways that balls shouldn't even be dropped on these Epstein files, calling them a hoax, saying there's nothing there. Look how good the Dow is doing. It just seems kind of odd that now the same administration is going to be showing us everything we want to know about aliens. It's also just kind of a weird post, right, where he's saying that they're going to be releasing all the information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. I don't know. It just seems like a strange post. I feel like it's gaslighting in some ways. Anyway, my son has on my tea. Let's take a break from that. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about that, because I don't buy this. I don't buy it personally. So looking at, okay, I'm going to check and see if we've got any questions that have come in. Here's one from We Are at War over on YouTube, who says, man, I'm glad to see you doing the whole question and answering method of putting out the truth. Thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying this. And again, just a reminder that every Sunday night, I'll be doing these shows Sundays with Seth. So every Sunday night at 10 p.m., I'll be live. And so let's keep having this conversation, because it's really important, right? This is one thing I think it's really critical to touch on, is that it's really important for us to be able to communicate with each other and have these conversations and have this back and forth, because for a lot of people, even though the Epstein files have become public and all this stuff that for a lot of us were called whack job conspiracy theorists for talking about, Pizzagate, hot dogs, Obama's $65,000 hot dog party, whatever. We've been mocked for a long time, and even though it's now coming out, we still have to be able to stick together and just talk to each other and just talk through this, because there is some crazy stuff going on. So anyway, I think it's just worth kind of highlighting. But I wanted to show a few other tweets that kind of stood out to me. Here's one from Savin Bra, who says, they're waking up too fast. Tell them the aliens are real. That's my sense too. Yeah, I happen to agree. Here's another one. This is from Jerry Rig Everything. It says, we can talk about aliens when the pedophiles are in jail or dead. Yeah, I mean, this is the sentiment of a lot of the country. Now, I want to hit on one question over there. This is from Lotus 8 Lily on Rumble, who says, geez, Seth, WTF, why do you dislike Trump so much? And I mean, I feel like I haven't really come out like a lot of people have and just blasted Trump. There's a lot of people that are coming out calling him a pedophile and saying a lot of things. I'm out of principle, I'm trying not to focus my show on attacking specific individuals, right? Just out of principle. I'm going to try to look at the bigger picture, because I think that most of these individuals are just actors. They're just put in place to control us. They're just put in place to keep us, I guess you could say, just keep us distracted. And so I'm more focused on the bigger picture patterns. Now, to answer your question more directly, Lotus 8 Lily, who says, why do I dislike Trump so much? Let me just look at the Epstein files. I'll just give my opinion on the Epstein files. I'm not going to be digging into all the mentions of Trump in the Epstein files, because a lot of these files, we don't know if they're true or not. It's just the reality of it. I think that if you look at enough of the patterns, you can see there is a lot of truth in there. To me, it's obvious that there was a massive global blackmail ring going on that was involving the torturing and the raping and the killing of children and the eating of them. You can see, whether it's looking at the jerky references, all the food references, the grape soda, pizza, etc. To me, it's like the pattern shows beyond a doubt that our worst nightmares are confirmed. Now, for me, they've been confirmed long ago through the other research I had done. I didn't need these Epstein files to come out to confirm that. So that's real. Now, in answering your question, though, Lotus, why do you dislike Trump so much? My point is this. I'm just gonna look at the Epstein files. I'm gonna try to be very level-headed with this. There are a lot of Americans, just looking at America, okay? There are a lot of Americans that, some for the first time, are seeing these files. Some, like for myself, have been reading about these things for a very long time. These files and the videos and some of the pictures that they've blacked out, these files indicate that there was some very evil stuff going on, like trafficking of children, torturing of children, baby farming. The list just goes on. Evil, evil things, specifically that are happening to children, right? It's not like we got some file from Afghanistan that shows that our troops were torturing people over in Afghanistan. That's still terrible, right? If that was happening, but this is magnitudes worse. Okay, so because what we're seeing in these files is, I would say, a lot of evidence showing that innocent children were being trafficked, were being tortured, were being raped. We've got stuff coming out from people showing that they're literally biting the genitalia of young girls. I mean, like, sick stuff. I'm not going to get into it. So you ask, why do I dislike Trump so much? To me, it's not about disliking Trump. It's the bigger picture is the fact that he's come out, his administration's come out numerous times and basically said, just move on with it, right? Look how good the Dow is doing, right? And there was even a tweet that Trump put out, gosh, I think this is it's like 4 or 5 months ago or something, where Trump basically said that anyone who keeps questioning these Epstein followers or files, I no longer want you as a follower. I know you're no longer one of my people, basically. I don't have to pull up for reference, but so where does this not sit well with me is we have these files, and for some people it is dark, it is depressing, and they're having that dark night of the soul looking at the information within these files. And the Trump administration is literally coming out and saying, case is closed, it's not worth looking at, it's time to move on, it's a distraction, it's a hoax. And to me, the thing is that I am not loyal to any one person. I'm loyal to God, to the best I can be, and I try to be loyal to the truth. So even though, say back in 2020, I was one of Trump's biggest supporters, and actually I did have to give Trump credit. He really, in many ways, made my career what it is by sharing the first video I did, the plot to steal America. So, because at that time I thought, okay, great, Trump is an outsider. He's going to come in. He's going to help kind of bring down this system, because I was very aware of this system. But I'm not someone, I don't have Trump tattooed on my back, right? I'm going to hold him to what I think is accountable. I still have a lot of issues with Operation Warp Speed. No justice there. I've lost people close to me because of Operation Warp Speed, to put it, kind of lightly. That's one thing. That's one of the big things that I've never been able to make sense of. And I know there's people say, oh, Trump was preventing lockdowns and all this stuff. He saved us from, eternal lockdowns. And I don't subscribe to that theory personally. But when it comes to the Epstein files, like, what's stopping him? Even if they don't want to kind of dig into it too much, but what's stopping him from coming out and saying, at least acknowledging and saying, hey, okay, American people, we're aware that these files indicate some terrible things happen to children. And here in America, we will not stand for our children being trafficked and tortured and killed. So we're going to get to the bottom of it. Like, a statement like that would actually go so far with the American people. Just some sort of acknowledgement. Because right now it's like you have this, it's like 1984, right? It's like, how many fingers, Winston? It's like you're holding up 2 fingers and they're telling you it's 3. It's like we're seeing these Epstein files, yet the administration is saying it's a hoax and move on. So there's people that are just like thinking, I feel sick to my stomach, which I feel like that a lot of the time after seeing these files. And again, I've been looking at this stuff for over a decade, but seeing this information like this, yet they're coming out and they're saying, his administration is basically saying, move on. It's a hoax. And I think what's worse is by saying that if you're calling for the release of the Epstein files, you're no longer one of my supporters. How many people in America that supported Trump lost their jobs because of it, were banned from social media? They were, kind of kicked out of their own families. I mean, Trump supporters were demonized so heavily. They gave so much for President Trump, not to mention the J6ers, et cetera. And one of the main reasons that a lot of people supported Trump was because of things like the Epstein files, because he talked about getting in the office and having justice for this stuff. Kash Patel, same thing. Dan Bongino, same thing. They all talked about the Epstein files until they were in the position to do something about it. And so that's where the chip is on my shoulder. Is it saying, hold on, this isn't right. This is real, right? All this stuff that we're seeing, of course, there's going to be some things in the Epstein files that are not true. They could be people calling an FBI hotline, making up lies, who knows? But again, the pattern that you see in there, the pattern that I'm seeing in there that matches up with almost everything else I've studied on the subject, which is a lot, unfortunately, shows that it's not a hoax. And so, yeah, that's my qualm. So Lily, let's see, what your name is, Lotus 8 Lily on Rumble. Like, I'm not trying to be combative with you, but that's kind of my thought, right? So anyway, continuing. Here's a comment. This is from Johnny Midas again, who says, more shiny objects to distract the masses. Yeah, that's true. I agree. Here is it's a question from Bastas in the Country. This is on Rumble, who says, what's going on with the community that you were supposed to be building? Thank you for asking, actually. So you're asking about the community. So let me pull up the website really quickly. So this is what this person is referring to over on Rumble. It's the ARC community. So the tentative launch date for this is March 3rd. So we're very, very, very close. A lot has happened to slow this down, but we are very close to launching the ARC community. So if you're not familiar with the ARC community, it's basically one of the things I came to in my own kind of journey of becoming prepared. I got to a point where we had all the food and bullets and chickens, and we were kind of prepped to the wazoo. But my wife and I both realized that we didn't know anybody. We moved out to the kind of rural Ohio, and we went kind of hardcore preparedness, but we didn't have anybody close to us. We couldn't actually build that local community. And I would say that local community is one of the most important things that you can do to strengthen how prepared you are. The whole lone wolf idea that you can just kind of protect your family and fend everyone off. It's a little bit of a pipe dream. You need to have community. And so that's the idea with the ARC community. Is it's an online platform. It's a private online platform that you can use to meet other people that share your values. We're going to have training modules on there for preparedness. We're going to have local chapters, so you can kind of go to your local chapter and you can meet people. You can use the platform to find people that are close to you. So anyway, this isn't going to be a big pitch for the ARC community, but yes, the tentative launch date is March 3rd. You're going to be hearing a lot more kind of in the next kind of 2 weeks as we kind of get to that date. If you want to sign up, if you want to be on the waiting list, so we just crossed over 10,000 people on the waiting list for the ARC community, which is like, my goal was to have 3,000 people on the waiting list by the time that we launched. We're over 10,000 people on the waiting list for this. So if you want to join and get on that waiting list, just go to Build the ARC. That's ARK. So buildthearc.com, put in your name and your email, and we will notify you as soon as the doors open for that. So thank you for asking that question. I appreciate that because it's near and dear to me, but there's been a lot. I lost my grandpa and my dad both within like a month or so of each other, kind of into last year. A lot of disruptions. So anyway, we're going forward strong. Continuing. Oh, gosh, here's a comment. This is from Sailor Dude 2022 on Rumble. It says, I lost a kid to Turbo CANCER, which I'm on Rumble, so I had to be a little bit careful about that. But I'm so sorry to hear that. You lost someone to that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah. I mean, my own father developed cancer very rapidly. And he was gone before we even knew what happened. So you can draw your own conclusions to that. I'm not going to get into that, but I feel you for that. Again, there's your Operation Warp Speed. So for Lily, who was asking, what's the beef with Trump? Yeah, it's affected me very, very closely. So yeah, I feel you on that one. So in talking about kind of Epstein, I just kind of want to put a thought out there on this. And again, please continue to ask your questions. Just let me get a drink of water real quick here. I'm not going to go into digging into the files tonight. I just want to share a few thoughts I've had. And I think one of the big things, and I really, really hope, honestly, I really hope that people don't just move on from this. I really hope. I mean, and I was just kind of doing some reflection. I put a short video about this as well when I was sitting outside in the snow talking about this. Look at the Rodney King riots. Look at Trayvon Martin. Look at George Floyd. The list goes on. Take George Floyd as an example. Not getting into his past or not getting into what, did Derek Chauvin really kill him or not? We had riots. I think it was actually the largest protest movement we've ever seen in America was for George Floyd. Now, even if we had proof that he was arrested and tortured to death in prison, hypothetically, look at the riots that happened from his death and look at what's happened from Epstein. It's like that was one person. The entire nation was set on fire over that. And again, even if we knew that he was tortured and killed, maybe, we should have some protests about that. But where are the protests for Epstein? I've seen a few videos of people with like a bullhorn walking around a public area, or there's a guy that was in the airport yelling about this. This is, to me, there's 2 points. One is I think a lot of Americans are still way too distracted, right? And it was like sickening to me to see right amidst the Epstein files coming out, we had the Super Bowl, and so much of the discourse was about Bad Bunny versus Kid Rock, and Rome fell because of bread and circuses, right? What was that? It was the masses that were distracted, and they weren't paying attention to the corruption happening within their own nation, within their own empire. And that was one of the big things that led to the collapse of Rome. And so when you look at this, you look at these files that have come out, and I'm not going to dig into the details. I'm sure if you're watching the show, you're aware of what's happening or what was highlighted in those files. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But the fact that we don't have global protests happening, of the masses saying, oh my gosh, we're being ruled. Like the people in these files, these are people that control media, they control nations, they control banks, they control major companies, they control major universities. Like these are powerful, powerful people that we now have, in a lot of ways, confirmation that what we were so just mocked for thinking about, for even talking about, that this stuff, we're seeing it, we're reading it in these email exchanges, and you're not seeing any mass protests happen. You're not seeing anybody out there on the streets, and maybe aside from the average kind of single person. It just makes me think, like, what's wrong? What's wrong with our country? I mean, now, I'm not out with a street sign. Okay, so I admit I'm not out on the street corner, but I'm doing this. Like, this is my way. I guess why I started this podcast is that this is my way of fighting in the information war. And my coverage on Epstein, I mean, gosh, I put out one show. It was one of the first kind of monologues I gave on it. It was, I think the headline was "Something Broke Inside of Me" from his Epstein files, highlighting this exact information. That single show, from the video, the audio, and the article, the transcript of that show, I think it's now reached 3.5 to 4 million people, right? So this is the way that I'm trying to fight, right? Because I have a platform, so I'm trying to use it to do what I think is good for people. I'm trying to use the platform that God has given me to do what I can. But it just makes me sad, honestly. Like, it makes me sad, actually, that we have this information and that there's, I'm not gonna say nothing is happening, but I mean, if we get to a point, say 3 months from here, and no one's talking about the Epstein files anymore, and all of a sudden everyone's focused on midterms, and it's just like, yeah, it just makes me sad. That's the only way to put it, right? So I hope that we see more. I hope people don't just forget about this stuff. I hope they don't just keep scrolling, and but that, yeah, it really bothers me, unfortunately. So anyway, continuing with some of the questions. Here's a question from Avocado7 on Rumble, who says, "What about the Biden laptop?" Good question. What about it? I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff on there. The Anthony Weiner laptop, where's that at? Right? Where's the investigation into Seth Rich? The conclusion I've come to is basically that the entire system at the very top is controlled by evil. Like, in essence, if you follow it up and you do your research and you figure it out, I think it basically leads to a small cult, a satanic death cult that just controls the system. Like, now, where's the hope in that? Like, well, there's faith, and to me, hope comes from faith. I also believe that this system is collapsing. I do believe that. I think the evil is collapsing under the weight of its own of the evil. Yeah. So it's really it's interesting how my perspective has shifted, because I honestly, I feel like I have no hope in politics anymore. I have no faith in politics anymore, and it's really freeing, actually. It's like I honestly, I really believe that politics is just this giant trap. It's this giant Edward Bernays, Coke or Pepsi, pick your A or B. I think it's a giant trap to distract us, and it to take it so people put all their effort into something that actually won't fix things. And I have to thank Trump for that, actually, because Trump has helped me to see through the illusion of politics. And so I no longer have any hope or any faith in the politicians doing anything. Not because they're all evil people, but because they're part of a system that was built by the evil people. And that system is not going to fix this country. Unfortunately, it's just the case. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Gosh, we've already gone over an hour. It's wild how quickly this It's kind of crazy. So continuing though with some of these questions, and please, again, reminder, if you have any questions or comments, just drop them into the chat. Mostly YouTube and Rumble is where we're most active in checking, but just drop them in and I will get to them. I'll do my best to get to them. Okay. So here's this is a comment or a question from Twerklebird over on Rumble, who says, Americans are tired of paying the price with our money, our lives, and our children. What are politicians really good for? I'm in the same boat as you. I'm done. I'm opting out of that system. Opting out. Okay, here's another question. This is from Bulldog on Rumble, who says, who's paying attention to the real world war in Europe? I'm trying to. I think that there's not just Europe. If you look at what's happening with Iran, I think that there's a lot of crazy stuff all going on at once. Martin Armstrong, who I've interviewed many, many times before, really good at predicting cycles, war cycles and everything. And he had told me over and over and over again in my discussions with him that 2027 is when he sees things really falling apart. 2027 to 2030 is what all of his models are pointing to, absolute chaos. And according to him, after 2030, you're going to see the collapse of most governments around the world. Is that the case? I don't know. But again, this is why it's actually been, to be honest, it's been really freeing to me. It's been really freeing to stop trying to fix the system. It's like when you realize that you can't fix the system, because you can't, right? It's like if at one point, if I thought there was one person that may have been able to fix the system, I thought maybe it was Trump. Looking at how the media hated him, looking at how he was kind of on the outside coming in, he wasn't a career politician. To me, that was the only hope I ever had in fixing the system from the political level. And I think that Trump has just shown that whether he's part of the system or not, he's not able to actually fundamentally change the system. We're not going to see the Federal Reserve ended. We're not going to, if you look at the things that really have created this prison planet and created this system that is just so absolutely evil, you don't see any of the real things happening that would actually change it fundamentally. And so my kind of perspective now, and I feel great. I'm really happy. I'm really, really fulfilled, focused on homeschooling my kids, focused on just doing what I'm doing with Man in America and the ARC community. But I just don't have any hope in the system itself. I'm just kind of, it's like that song I heard, I forget who it was, swim up past the breakers and watch the world die. Was it? I forget the band name. Anyway, that's kind of my perspective, is that I'm just kind of doing the best that I can in the ways that I can, focusing on things I have control over, my own health, my own sovereignty, my family, homeschooling, my children, raising the next generation with the correct values and teaching them the truth and teaching them morals and faith and all those really important principles. And I'm just going to be really focus on what I have control over, and the system will do what it is going to do. You're not going to see me with extensive coverage in the midterms. You're not going to see any of that here. I'm not your guy for that anymore. I covered extensive coverage on elections and the Arizona audit and the cyber symposium and the midterms and the red wave. And I think, honestly, I actually feel kind of duped. I feel kind of duped. It's like I got pulled into it. And, so I was wrong. But that's just, as I mentioned before, my alignment, my allegiance is to the truth. And so that's what I'm following in this process. Someone on over on Rumble says, it's an anonymous Andrew on Rumble says, question, turbo C word linked to the jab. Now, because I'm live on YouTube, I'm going to be careful a little with this. That's exactly it. I'm not going to go into detail. I've done extensive coverage on this stuff. If you go to, actually, I'll pull up and show you really quickly my Rumble channel. If you go over there on my Rumble channel, you can see which quickly, if this is your first time watching the show, welcome. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure wherever you're watching it, whether it's YouTube or Rumble or any other place, make sure you're following, etc. But if you want to dig into more of the medical stuff, this is my Rumble channel over here. I've done extensive stuff on medicine, extensive stuff. Interviewed a lot of the frontline doctors, kind of digging into, looking at the Flexner report, all the different kind of forbidden health type stuff. So anyway, if you're new to it, if you want to learn some more about that kind of stuff, I've done some great interviews with Dr. Edward Group, Brian Artist, David Martin. So make sure you check that out because there's some really good stuff on there. Okay, continuing. And I love this question and answer format. It's really wonderful, and I really appreciate everyone who is actually taking the time to ask these questions or to give these comments. So Harry Buckeye over on YouTube. Actually, Harry, let me know if you're in Ohio. Let me know if that's why you're called Harry Buckeye. It's kind of a fun name anyway. Harry Buckeye says, because unfortunately protests are paid for, people are afraid to take the initiative and stand up for things that are right. I agree. Absolutely agree. I think one of the only protests that I can remember in recent times that was, I feel like, more organic was the Stop the Steal protest when you had these millions in DC for that. Not to say that the other protests aren't completely organic, and you might have some people that are protesting in an organic fashion, but again, if you look into BLM, you look into a lot of the kind of funding behind these major protests, Antifa, et cetera. It goes back to George Soros, it goes back to the CCP, it goes back to the UN, the global organizations. But yeah, I agree. It's like, that's why we're not seeing protests, because the people that normally pay for the protests are the ones in the files. So here's a question. This is from Sarah Islaya over on Rumble. It says, what do we do to help change it? And honestly, I would say that well, I'll try to simplify that. I don't think that we change the system. I think that we change the hearts and minds of the people. That's how you change it. We're not going to change the system. Like, there's actually a book. Let's see if I have it sitting here. I might have taken it upstairs. I always love my book references. No, not that one. Anyway, I don't have it with me. There's a book called, oh, here it is. Yes. This book right here. It's called The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind. This book was written by a French man. He's a polymath. His name was Gustave Le Bon. It was written in the late 1800s. And there's a lot of people that think that this guy was funded by the elites to research what causes the rise and fall of civilization, of empires, etc. And there's a quote in here. Let's see if I can find it. I'd love to read it to you if I can find it, because there is a very important quote here. When you say, what can we do? Okay, actually, I think it's it right here. Let me see if this is it. No. Let me see if I can find the quote here. If I can't, I'll keep going, because I don't want to bore you with me looking through this book. I need to highlight it. Anyway, I'll summarize this for you. Okay? What this guy found in this book called The Crowd, and if you haven't read it, I recommend it. I love books like this. Again, political ponderology, I've been talking about that one a lot. I think it's really important for us to try to go to history to understand what's happening right now, because there's nothing new under the sun. And what we're seeing right now, the same bloodlines that are messing with things, the same ones that were controlling things in the 1800s, okay? Now, the thing is, the key point that he came to with this, one of the key points, is that the collapse of a nation, the success of an empire, etc., it's not caused by a single political leader or the political system. What he discovered in here is that the thing that affects change is actually the collective hearts and minds of the people in that nation. This is what we do. And he highlights in here, it's so important how he kind of comes to that conclusion here and how he describes it, is that a nation is a reflection of the hearts and the minds of the people in that nation. And I couldn't agree more. And so what can we do? I think that we have to do our best just to help unite the people in this nation together. And I think the Epstein files are such an amazing opportunity. I'm having conversations now with people that were on the opposite side of the political spectrum than me. Now I feel like it's like where am I at in the political spectrum? It's like I'm not on the political spectrum anymore. I'm off the spectrum, right? But I'm actually talking to people that 2 years ago we weren't even talking because of differences in politics. But now we can talk about things. We can both agree in the fact that, yeah, there's evil people doing evil things to children, and these are the ones that are in control. And they're in both sides of the political party. They're in the left, they're in the right, they're in the center, they're in the libertarian, etc. And so I think that it's such an opportunity now to help Americans just come together. Because like, what can we do to help change it is stop fighting each other. Stop fighting each other. Stop blaming your neighbor. Stop blaming the person with the BLM t-shirt, right? We've all been misled. As I said, like I was one of Trump's biggest supporters back in 2020. And, so now, like, it's just like, I don't want nothing to do with that political system. I feel like I was misled. I feel like I was duped. So how am I any better than the person that was, say at a BLM protest because they wanted equality, right? Yeah, there's a lot of inequality in America. And that's the thing is, especially if you look at the left, that a lot of the way that the left has been co-opted is these are people that see things that are actually wrong, right? Like, yeah, there is racial injustice in America. Yeah, okay. But it's racial injustice towards blacks and to whites. Like, I agree with that. There's a lot of racial injustice. But these people, like a lot of them actually, they really have a good heart and they've just been misled, right? As I feel like I was too. And so it's like, what do we do to help change it? We have to come together. We have to unite as Americans. We have to unite as people, as sovereign people around the world. And that's what causes the system to collapse, right? What allows this system to keep going is when we're so busy fighting each other and we're so busy blaming the other side of the aisle that we don't realize that we're just it's like you have these puppet masters and it's like, hey, we're going to make the left and we're going to make them argue over this week. And now it's transgender issues. Now it's Black Lives Matter this. Now it's, it's this. That's how they've maintained this system, is that they've made us so focused on fighting each other. And when we're not busy fighting each other and blaming the other person for things, the other political party for things, we're distracted with bread and circuses, right? Football and the Super Bowl and Netflix and video games. It's like that's the formula, right? The formula is like, okay, how do you create a prison planet? You distract the people, you dumb them down with chemicals in the air and in the food and the water. You make them think that the person that is actually should be on their side is the enemy. So that way they're more focused on that. And that's why I think like the media sickens me. Both Fox News and CNN, to me, they're both the same thing. Their job, right? If you're watching Fox News, their job is to say, look what the Democrats are doing. Look what the left is doing. Look what this politician's doing. Same thing on CNN. Look what the right is doing. These conspiracy theorists. That's what they're doing, right? So if we can rise above that and just come together and realize that like that neighbor of yours, even if they've got a BLM tattoo and a piercing in their nose and rainbow colored hair, that person has way more in common with you than the satanic cult that wants to kill us all. Right? Like, right. So it's like, I think that right now is a good time for us to say, hey, let's mend those past things. I'm going to admit where I was wrong. And that was kind of tough. This one person I was talking to, someone really close to me, that I've known most of my life, really good friend of mine, that, 2020, we really kind of split ways and didn't talk for a couple of years actually. And, I had to also apologize. And I would say that I had to say, yeah, I was wrong too. I was wrong. And I think that's actually key. That's key. Is I think that I didn't wait for this person to say they were wrong. Doesn't matter. Right? I said, look, yeah, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Like, I put all of my support behind the political system. How is it any different than that person putting all their support behind the political system on the other side of it? So anyway, sorry, long answer to your question, but I appreciate the question. It's a good one. Here's a comment from T. Lucko on Rumble, who says, I would love things to be as the way I want it to, Seth. I would love things to be the way I want it to. I would too. Yeah, I would too. Joey Utah on Rumble says, who's truly ruining our government? I thought I read it as who's truly running our government. Well, I would recommend, Joey Utah, if you haven't watched the interview I did, actually, I'll pull it up. I'll show you. Oops. Okay, let me show you real quick. Sorry, let me. Okay, sorry, let me get back to where I wanted to be. Okay, so I was going to show you, if you haven't watched, let me go back to my main page. So, okay, this little show I put out, this was last night. It's 24 minutes. This was kind of like, it was a highlight of the interview I did with Max Lowen. This one right here. Crazy, almost 500,000 views just on Rumble, that video. This right here, that video right there, look for that Epstein. That was one of the most enlightening interviews I've ever done. So if you really want to get into who's ruining or who's running our nation, that is the longer, it's an hour and a half long discussion on that exact topic. If you want the condensed highlight of it, I'd watch this show right here. 24 minutes. Says, is the world run by a satanic cult? So if you want to know, that's it. The simple answer that I've come to is that there is basically an evil satanic cult that has been, we're talking like biblical era, time, ancient bloodlines cult that has gained massive control over the world, over the governments, over the nations, and that's who's really running things. So again, if you want to kind of dive into it deeper, though, that's a good show for you. Is the world run by a satanic cult? And the answer, according to my own research, is yes. Okay, continuing on some of these comments. I need a drink real quick. Okay, so hello there, 25 on Rumble. Says, I'm with you, Seth, and I'm a judge. I appreciate that. If you're a judge and you're watching this show, that means that you're probably I would hope to say, a pretty moral and ethical judge, and you're trying to do what's right. So I thank you for being a judge and not being controlled. Because a lot of the judges are controlled. Actually, if you look into, you want to read another book to understand what's happening in the world right now, Political Ponerology. I've covered it a lot lately, and this book really talks about, so Ponerology is the study of evil. Political Ponerology, it's a book about why evil people, psychopaths, etc., why they tend to congregate in positions of power. Judges is one of those places. So if you're a judge, you're watching this show and you're not compromised, thank you. Okay, Lightworker 007 on Rumble, who says, are you voting? And then Sands Hill Girl 2479 on YouTube also says, are you still going to vote in the election, Seth? I haven't really thought too much about that. I don't know, actually. I mean, I still do live in America, and we still do have a political system here that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. Just out of principle. Because it's like, what does voting do? But I haven't solidified that decision yet. Most likely not. I think I will probably just completely tune out what's happening with the midterm, and so yeah, I don't know for sure yet though. But I'll let you know. I'll think more about that and let you know. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Harry Buckeye got back to me and says, trying to escape Minnesota and back to my family in Youngstown, Ohio. All right. Good old Youngstown, Ohio. That's a mafia town for you, but thank you from kind of tuning in from Minnesota via Youngstown. So let's see, continuing. This is a question from Wall for Him on Rumble. This is a good question. It says, Seth, do you believe that God has chosen President Trump to lead this nation? That is a good question. And I will say that I believe that everything that happens in this world is what God has allowed to happen. I don't think, I mean, I do think that Satan has dominion over this world, but only because God has allowed it. So you could say, it's like, do you think that God has allowed George Soros to do what he's doing with his money? Right? Yeah. Right? Do you think that God chose George Soros? Well, I mean, if he was allowed to become this billionaire that would do these things, I wouldn't say that like Satan did it without God's permission, right? I mean, I'm not going to try to pretend to, think like I'm God, right? Because I'm not. So I'm a lowly mortal. But, I mean, if you think about what's happening right now with the Epstein files, if you think about even what I've experienced in this process of completely just losing all hope in the political system, I would say that in many ways, Trump helped me arrive at the place where I'm at right now. Right? And I think it's like a blessing, actually. It's almost like, thank you, Trump. Like, I no longer am going to depend on politicians, right? You just showed it to me. You're the one guy I thought that could have done it, and I don't see it happening. I'm being told that I'm no longer a supporter of his. It's a hoax. That's fine. It is what it is. So it's like, do you believe that God has chosen Trump to lead this nation? Well, I'd say, what if God's plan was to put Trump in there, and Trump, through the limits and through whatever controls he has and whatever people they're controlling him, whatever, maybe that was a plan, is like for Trump to be the final kind of thing to show people that you can't rely on politicians. Like, wouldn't that be a blessing in America if the average person in America saw through the two-party system lie and just said, I'm going to focus on things I can actually control, like my own local community, my children, etc. You could argue that that would be a very, very good divine plan. So, like, I don't believe, and I know some people do, I don't believe that I don't believe that Trump is some chosen savior of America. I don't believe that. I believe that God chose him for the role that he's in, just like I believe that God chose me for the role that I'm in. But that doesn't mean that I think that he's some saint, right? Because I'm not going to pretend to know God's plans, because maybe part of God's plan is to allow the American people to see through this system and to allow the system to collapse under itself, right? So hopefully that's a helpful answer. Here's a question from Adam Moores over on Rumble. He says, okay, we've talked a lot now. What are we going to do? I suggest that groups are formed and we make citizen arrests and charge the offenders. More action, less talk. Not a bad idea. I mean, it's constitutionally, or say you even get deputized. Say you have a constitutional sheriff that's in your area and you can become deputized. Go for it. Go for it. For me, as I mentioned, it's okay. I'm kind of doing the things that I think that I have the ability to do, and so part of what I'm doing again is building the art community. Part of what I'm doing is this podcast. My goal is not to try to tell people what to think, but my goal is just to be on a journey of really trying to understand the truth of what's happening in the world. Try my best to not be misled through lies and misled through a lot of the traps that have been laid for us, and just to help more people think independently. And that's why I think, again, going back to one of the questions earlier, someone asked, okay, what do we do about this? I think that what we do is we unite. We put our differences aside. We break bread together. We find our common ground. I think that's what we do. And so that's what I'm trying to do in the ways that I can. All right, so that was the last question that I have in my notes here. It's also been going on for an hour and a half, and this is kind of a late show for me. I've been a little bit on an earlier sleep schedule because of the kids. My 2-year-old is just not interested in sleeping, which is kind of fun, but part of being a dad. It's completely worth it. But and it's great that we've got over just about 9,000 people watching on Rumble. I'm not sure where the YouTube numbers are at, but this is great though. I mean, I think this is really good. And anyone who's watching, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to pursue this information, right? Like if you're someone that is up at 11:30 Eastern, if you're up this late watching a podcast like this, talking about Epstein, aliens, and Mexican cartel violence, you're someone that is you're like in that little small sliver of people that are really questioning things. And you are, to me, you're the hope. You're the hope for this nation. I just hope that we can take this information and do something with it. I don't want to be a person like a lot of these kind of conservative influencers. I don't want to be the person that is saying, look at these stupid liberals and these demon rats. And that's not me. I don't believe that that's the way to fix things. And I hope that you can join me in that thinking as well. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but this is how I'm approaching things. And I can tell you that now that I've shifted this thinking, I feel free. I really do. There's still, life can be stressful sometimes, but it just feels really good actually. And I feel so much more empathy and compassion to my fellow Americans. I don't care what political party they're part of. I feel closer to the average American now than I think I probably ever have before. I think it's like anybody I walk out and see on the street, as long as they're not trying to hurt me or assault me or, kind of denigrate me, I feel like they're on my team. Actually, because I felt like, because, again, going back to 2021, 22, et cetera, I felt like I was in such a small slice, like, oh, you're this kind of MAGA conspiracy theorist, and it was difficult, right? Of course, I didn't bend my values, but I feel like now it's like, put me in a room with anybody, put me in a room with 30 liberals, and I will find the common ground, and I will walk out of that room with 30 new friends, and that's a cool place to be. Actually, it's like, hey, you might have differences on these few issues. We'll talk about that later, but let's both agree on these core principles that we both want to be free. We don't want to be ruled by satanic overlords, and let's come together. And that's a great place to be. It really is. It's so, anyway, so as we are wrapping up, again, thank you everyone for being here this late. Make sure again, you hit that subscribe button. So if you're watching on Rumble, I think Rumble it's like a follow button. There's a green follow button on Rumble. Make sure you hit that. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know what you think in the comments as well. That's also really, really important. And then also, if you want to sign up, again, we just crossed over 10,000 people on the waiting list. We're not going to open it all up at once. We're going to kind of do things in segments, so it's not too crazy. But if you want to be part of the ARC community, just go to buildthearc.com, put your name and your email in there, and we'll notify you as soon as it opens up to whatever section of the waiting list that you're in. I'm super excited about this. I'm really excited about the ARC community because it's a private platform. We're going to have forums in there so you can ask questions. We've already got some kind of early beta testers, people who are like absolute geniuses. There's one guy that's in there that his job is to harden the government facilities and military facilities for EMP attacks, right? So this is the guy that's helping make a military base EMP proof. And he's in this forum. And so if you ask him about how to, EMP proof your house, it's like, great. And he's so excited to help people. So we're going to have forums in there. We're going to have chats. We're going to have an area for like prayer requests, and we're going to have local chapters. We're going to have training modules so you can take like online courses and you can kind of track your training and say water 101, community building 101, bartering 101, emergency medicine 101. We're going to be setting up all this stuff. It may not be from the day one, but this is part of the plan for the community. You have your private direct messages on there, so you can kind of form your friendships. You can look and find people that are say you want to meet people within a 50-mile radius of you. You can do that, and you can say, hey, say you find someone that has 30 miles from you that's an expert in chickens. You message them and say, hey, I've got some chicken questions, right? That's what's going to be about. So if you want to be part of that community, go to buildtheark.com. Also, just it's worth mentioning that, let me just pull it up real quick, that we recently updated our website. So maninamerica.com. Hey, look, he's wearing my shirt. It's kind of funny looking at that, isn't it? Anyway, so maninamerica.com is now updated. So if we don't have all the videos on there yet, which that's part of what we're working on, but if you want to share the podcast, if you want to figure out, hey, where's Seth's link for his Substack, or where's Seth's link for his Facebook, etc., maninamerica.com has all the links right here. Also, if you have a question or whatever, you want to reach out, say you want me to cover a certain topic in the next Sunday show, you can do all that through here as well. So again, it's just maninamerica.com. And I think that's it. I think that's it for the night. So thank you all for being here with me tonight. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. And as insane as this world is right now, I actually feel optimistic. I really do. I mean, I've got these two beautiful girls. They're 2 years old. Grace, my 2-year-old, she just celebrated her birthday. She turned 2 on Valentine's Day. And I got a little 5-year-old, and we're reading books, and it just is. I feel so optimistic. I really do. And I hope that maybe you get some that wears off on you. That's my hope. But yeah, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here. And we've got some great shows coming out this week. And I'll see you again live like this next Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes, honestly, these Sunday night shows will just be us hanging out. Eventually, I want to set up so I can do call-ins. I really want to hear from you too. So if you want to do a call-in and actually have some back and forth, I'd love that. I've realized that I tend to be a little bit of a hermit. As much as I, kind of do a podcast, I'm not that much of a hermit, but I do tend to kind of contract into myself sometimes. So it's good for me to have these interactions with everybody, and I love interacting with you and seeing your questions and your comments. So thank you again for being here, and I will see you soon. So take care. God bless. I'll see you next time.